All right. I am Jordan Nip. I'm the sales and operations manager at Digital Minds International. And we have a new free report that's coming out for architecture, engineering, and construction companies. And we wanted to talk about it a little bit here. So I have Michael Bush, who is the managing partner of Digital Minds International. And we are going to talk a little bit about some ways that AEC firms can improve their storage, file storage for free, some things that we see across the industries. We have had businesses for over 25 years and have been working in that industry. Both Michael and myself are engineers, and so we have quite a bit of experience in that arena. So I am going to ask you, introduce yourself. Who are you, and why do you know so much
All right.
in this
All right.
industry?
Well, thank you, Jordan. Great to be here today. Like Jordan said, I'm Michael Bush. I'm the managing partner of Digital Minds International. We've been in business for over 25 years in this arena. Excuse me. I have worked in the industry, in the engineering industry, from design, development, and taking a product from concept to market also. Excuse me. Allergy season here in Tennessee. So anyway, the we've been working with engineering firms and construction and architectural firms all these years, and see a consistent ways of how they're doing it well, and in some cases we see some ways that it needs to be improved. So along those lines, what we wanted to share today briefly is some best practice experiences that we felt would um, be a benefit to everyone. So that's what we'd like to share today.
Yes. So we have a couple topics that we see consistently that when we bring a firm on board, or just in general, you've seen across these different verticals. So one of the topics you've mentioned is folder structure recommendations, and why is that important, and what do you see, and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. They're a very common thing because ultimately, because in the AEC industry, due to certain projects, the retention of that data needs to be anywhere from 7 to 10 years, and so you just can't keep that in a production environment all the time. So you need to start structuring your data from the very beginning for it to be going to some type of storage. And so being able to prune that data off easily is something that you need to prepare for it in the very beginning, because doing it after the fact, it makes it a lot more difficult. It's cumbersome to the project managers who are structuring those things. And so if you get it, lay the foundation right the first time and at the very beginning, then it's very easy to be able to just we transfer a project that's going to be archived into a temporary area, indicating to everyone that it's going to be archived here soon. Please review it. The PMs go through there and review that, and then there's a sign-off process, and then once that's done, it can be moved into a long-term storage or cold storage at that point in time.
Yes, explain cold storage and why somebody would want to have that, and how do you recall data from a cold storage?
Right. It can be various methods. In cold storage, it's long-term retention. You don't want that data to be changed in some cases, in a lot of cases. Once it goes to cold storage, it's kind of set in stone per se, but you want to still be able to get access to that. The main thing is we can, when you go to cold storage, you can reduce the storage cost on a monthly basis. So it's a very common way or term used for lower cost cold storage. And the cold meaning it's frigid. When you're so cold, you run a little slower. So it's a little slower in getting it back, or there are some processes you may have to go through to get it back. But there's, you need to, hey, okay, there's a project or there's some questions that have come up on a prior project from many years ago, and you need to have a procedure in place to say we need to recall this, and it's all documented, and you bring it back, and everybody gets the information they need then.
And tell us a little bit about having an archival process. What does that look like on keeping your data clean and structured correctly? Are there best practices for that?
Well, I always use the analogy of setting up a garden. Everyone always loves the way a fresh garden looks. It's the soil's all tilted and all black, and there's no weeds. Unfortunately, over time, if unattended or maintained, weeds will grow up. In this case, files will grow, and you just need to be attentive. And are these files necessary? Are they being stored in the proper place? So there needs to be ongoing review of, okay, we're going to go clean out go pull weeds or clean out the garage is another analogy. So there just needs to be a good process of that. And again, all these things, deleting files and things like that could be possible relevance to existing projects. There needs to be a review process, or a sign off on various things that could potentially be relevant to those projects.
Having some checks and balances with multiple people involved to prevent accidental deleting of files or moving them to the wrong place.
Right, right. But it's not a dramatic situation if you have a good backup system in place. If something does get deleted, it can be easily restored. But that's the time and effort of putting it right back the way it is. So.
Yes, yes. All right. Another thing that we have seen is on permission structure. Can you talk a little bit about that and user based versus role based and why that's
Sure,
important?
sure. Having taken over the management of many companies over many years, we've seen where a lot of folder structures are assigned to individual users versus assigned to a role group. And a role group would be an example of, let's say, financial. That'll be the financial group, and anyone who is in the financial group has access to these specific files. And say the engineering group would be another one, and the engineering group has it. So those two groups, financial and engineering, could be combined together to give those two groups access to combined folders together. So that would be a simple way of doing it. So if you have a user leave, separates from the company, all you simply do is you can either deactivate that specific user and it cascades down through that folder structure, or you remove that specific user from the group, which has the same effect then too.
Right. So you don't have to go and find everywhere that this one person had access. Even as they move within a company or change roles, then you know who has access to what.
That's right. So the other thing we found is um, the the analogy that I would use is we find companies who want to give everyone access to the front of the building door that they come in, and but they want to allow them to go down all the hallways, but the very last door on the right, they will want them to go in there. That means we have to give permissions to every single door all the way down. It's just not a good way of structuring your security. So those are things that those specific doors or folders should be pulled out of that hallway and put in a different area and restricted to the specific users then.
Hmm. All right. Another thing is about your data storage. Why do you need data in multiple places, and what's some practical ways that you can do that?
Yeah, nowadays with the threat actors, very common when they do uh, compromise a network, they're also looking for your backup data that you may have stored locally, and they're going to try to delete or compromise that data to any kind of configurations that you have set up to be able to restore that data back. So you want to make an immutable backup that's off-site that cannot be reached from any of the credentials that may be on that may have been compromised. You know, a lot of common approaches is you have a C-level person in an organization who wants to have a certain access rights, and then if through a phishing attempt that C-level person provides that threat actor those credentials, thinking that they're signing into something that should be normal. And then they start using those credentials in the background and starting going through the network. And then once they find those things out, and if they have admin rights in some ways, then they're going to use those to detriment. So having your data separated off-site and those credentials will not translate to off-site, that means that they may be able to do the damage locally on the network, but they're not going to be able to do it externally. So you can still recall that data back.
Yeah, that's great. So what are can you talk a little bit about what we do differently with data storage that helps firms with their collaboration, mobility, and storage? Can you talk a little bit about our solution?
We have, I would say, multiple tools in the toolbox, and it really depends on the client and their specific use cases and needs that they may have. We have a product that we provide to our clients called DMI Sync, and it will allow them to it essentially would eliminate like a VPN that they would need to have uh, into their on-site servers or even in the cloud servers, which would allow users who are mobile to be say in a job trailer and be able to have access to that data in the data center or in their office, just like everyone else would. And it would keep track of all the changes, and also they could be able to access it from their iPads, their iPhones also, and if they needed to do it that way. So we are also an Ignite partner. Ignite is a very prominent file sharing synchronization program also that's in the industry, in the AEC industry. We're proud partners of those two, and we became partners many years ago, and they're a great team over there that we work with. So there's different use cases for what we're trying to do, and Ignite is a really good solution for if you're going to be working in doing a lot of CAD related applications and data, and it works very well with Autodesk, Revit, and AutoCAD, and those type of things, and Civils 3D. So that's what we would recommend. So if you've got we've got even a landscape development company that we essentially eliminated their file server on premise. They don't have anything, and so everything is now in the cloud, and they use that DMI sync to communicate, and it keeps track of everything. And users, if someone needs a previous version of a spreadsheet, they have access to it. They can quickly restore that themselves, so they're empowered to do that themselves. You can also send in both DMI Sync and Ignite, you can send files out to individuals or groups of people securely, and you can also request information securely from who, if you're working on a bid or a project with someone, you can do those things too.
It allows that mobility where you're not tied to the office and
Correct.
can access, since work from home and is here to stay, as well as being on site to be able
That's
to
correct.
access your files.
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, that is all I have for today, and thank you. And
All
so
right.
we hope you guys will check out our free report that will be coming out soon. It has a lot of this information in a written format, as well as some questions to ask yourself about your current data storage solution. And if you would like help implementing this, give us a call.